Hello, my marvellous sausages, and there's only 2 weeks to go. Well, actually, less than that now. And this has gotten me thinking about exotic weapons and exotic armour, and which ones might really start to make a big comeback in Witch Queen because of all the buffs heading our way, and of course, good old Void 3.0. You see, in a way, Void 3.0 is going to have more of an effect on Destiny 2 than actually Stasis did, because Stasis was brand new, and it didn't really have damage type specific exotics, you see, whereas Void has been around since God was a boy, so there's already an exotic arsenal of exotic armor and weapons designed to work with it. So here's a list of exotics you really want to keep an eye on for next season. So first of all, we take a look at weapons that are going to shine, well, what I reckon anyway will shine, and then we'll have a look at a couple of armor pieces from each class that could well prove to be invaluable. Now, from these massive twabs, the thing that's kind of gotten me excited the most is the fact that primary exotics, so exotics that use primary ammo, are getting a 40% buff. 40%! That's absolutely bloody huge. So let's go and talk about a couple of them first off the bat. Graviton Lance. Now this is an amazing exotic anyway. It's a pulse rifle, of course, and it's void based, but when you kill gits with it, it makes little explosions of void doodads that'll chain and kill other gits. Well, think about this. There's something called volatile, which is coming in new Void 3.0. Now volatile means if they're touched with a void explosion or a void damage, then they will count down and then explode themselves. So what happens if that is actually going to work with the Graviton Lance? My god, you can have even more ripples of void explosions going on. It's going to be absolutely devastating, I reckon. This is one to watch for the Witch Queen. Next, we're going to slip over to the Hard Light. Now, not one of my favourite exotics in the past, but I've really started to like it. And the reason why I'm going to like it even more this season is because, well, first of all, we've got the 40% buff on it, which is amazing. It can change damage type through, it can cycle through Arc, Void, and Solar. No news on it changing to Stasis yet, but you never know, it might do. But, of course, it's going to be an overload killer, because one of the anti-overload mods is for auto rifles. So this is going to come in exceedingly handy, as it'll not only shred elemental shields, but of course you'll be able to kill bloody overload champions. Fantastic. As a little aside, I might actually start using my Cerberus +1, you know, the exotic auto rifle with the 4 different gun barrels on it. I've always loved the idea of this exotic, and I've always found it to be a little bit underwhelming, but with a 40% buff and the overload, and I've just got the catalyst. I just did like half an hour at the beginning of the Grasp of Avarice dungeon and unlocked the catalyst really quickly, and you can change it to like a really tightly focused blast of all 4 barrels. So I just think this could be really cool with the buff and of course the overload doodads as well. Just thought I'd mention that one. Right, let's give the submachine guns a bit of love, because they're also going to be overload champion slayers. So what have we got in our bag here? Of course, we've got the bloody Risk Runner, which is a right one to watch. It'll have the 40% damage buff because it uses primary ammo. It's going to be a champion killer, and if you're running it with Arc and you can proc the ridiculous lightning chain abilities that it's got, it's just amazing to use. So keep that one close at hand. Right, next, I also want to talk about the 3 exotic bows, because they're all completely brilliant in their own way. So, of course, 40% damage buff, which is fantastic, and bows this season are going to be anti-barrier. They're switching from overload to anti-barrier. So all of these, the Trinity Ghoul, Le Monarch, and Tiku's Divination, are going to be utterly fantastic. And Le Monarch is void as well, so it's going to be worth seeing if this interacts with any of the new Void 3.0 stuff with the aspects, or we don't even know what fragments we're getting yet. We've had an idea of a couple, but it could be really good. So get those exotic bows, baby, and have them ready to whip out. And finally, weapons-wise, I just want to talk about the Ruinous Effigy, which is basically a cupboard door that kills people with... can't even get through that sentence. With purple light. I bloody love the Ruinous Effigy. But then they nerfed the arse off it at the end of Season of the Arrivals, which was ages ago now, and I haven't taken it out of my cupboard since. But the nerf is being reversed. And the nerf that they're reversing is basically, once you get one of those transmutation spheres after you kill somebody, and then you guard with it, you get a shield around you, and anything caught in that shield would receive damage, plus you would be protected. Now, they nerfed that by 66%, but they're putting it back up, so it's going to become incredibly useful again. And another thing that's going to be useful about it is, of course, it's Void. So will it have some kind of wank word alert synergy with Void 3.0 and the volatile? Maybe, because you know you can skip past with a beam from a trace rifle and not kill anything, make them volatile, and they could be wandering around bombs again. Who knows? But it's definitely one to keep an eye on. I can't wait to start using it again. I bloody love it. It's bonkers. Right, let's move on to class exotics, and we'll talk about the hunter first of all. Now, because it's Void, most of these are going to be Void leaning. I say most of them, have only got 2 per character, but this one, the Graviton Forfeit. Now, what you get with this, it increases the duration of your invisibility effects, and also while you're invisible, your melee recharges faster, your weapons reload faster, and your recovery is greatly increased. Now, if you tie that in with the vanishing step aspect, which means you dodge and then vanish, or the stylish executioner aspect, which says defeating a void debuff target, so that's weakened, suppressed, or volatile, grants invisibility and true sight. And while you're invisible, after a stylish execution, your next melee attack weakens enemies. So this is just going to really fit nicely in with your invisible hunter who wanders around sticking knives in people's eyeballs when they're trying to see what's on the TV. Don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. So yes, Graviton Forfeit, excellent Void synergy, particularly if you like being invisible. Then we've got the Omnioculars. Bloody hell. Pronunciation governors. You gain a second smoke bomb charge, you get resistant while invisible, and if you make allies invisible, they'll also get resistant, which is great. Now then, if you couple this with the Trapper's Ambush aspect, which is one of the new 3.0 aspects, it gives you something called Quickfall. Now this means players activate Quickfall to spend their melee charge, of which you'll have 2, of course, because you've got the Omnioculars, and then when you dive to the ground, you create a smoke cloud upon impact, and enemies caught in the cloud are weakened, allies become invisible, and in addition, snare bombs upon attaching to surfaces or enemies cause nearby allies to become invisible. So whenever you make your allies invisible, you're also giving them damage resistance. So I suppose you could say it's kind of like the Void equivalent of the Shatter Dive. So instead of freezing the gits, you're going to be turning them all invisible allies-wise and choking them all on your filthy fumes. Next, let's move to the Warlocks and the Fellwinter's Helm. Because you get final blows of that, you weaken targets with it and it spreads those debuffs all across any gits in range. But if it's going to install Volatile on the Bar Stewards as well, that would be utterly fantastic, because there is kind of like a void effect on them when they're staggering around, but that could just be the debuff. But anyway, it's well worth keeping an eye on this to see if it's got anything advantageous. Now, this next one, I think, this could be absolutely awesome. Now, in the new documentary, they talked about a new submachine gun that we're getting called the Osteo Striga. Now, what it does, it shoots little worms that attach and they seek, and then they explode with like a poisoned badoosh, right? Which is all very cool. But they mentioned that it's the same family of guns as Thorn and Touch of Malice. So what got me thinking is this going to work with a necrotic grip? Because the Thorn works with a necrotic grip and it's utterly fantastic because of the extra poison explosions. Can you imagine it on this SMG bloody thing? It's going to be absolutely bonkers. You're going to get waves of green stuff flying out of the place like a Jean-Michel Jarre concert watched on fast forward. 80s ink. And finally, moving on to our beloved crayon-eating titans. Let's have a look at what we got here. The first one I want to take a look at is the Helm of Saint 14. Now, what this does is when there's a Ward of Dawn plopped down, anything that walks into your Ward of Dawn is completely blinded, and any allies that pop through it, they get an overshield. So, that's all well and good. But in the Vidoc, we saw something that the Glaives could do, and they can shoot and create bubble shields around the map. So if you want to plop one down, you see one of your mates getting a massive kicking in front of you, you can shoot them with the bubble shield and it'll appear around them. Now, I got this idea from reading some things on Reddit. I shall put a link in the description. But what if these mini little Titan shields had blinding capabilities if you were wearing the Helm of Saint 14? That would be completely brilliant, wouldn't it? Now, I know you can kind of do this, well, you can't exactly do this with blinding grenades, but you don't get the shielding effect with it as well, and I do think it would be a really cool thing to happen. A nice, wanky word alert, synergy. And finally, I'm going to bundle these two together because they're both melee pieces. We've got the Synthoceps and the Worm God Caress. Now, these both are fantastic for punching people in the face. The Synthoceps gets stronger the more people you have surrounding you, and the Worm God Caress gets stronger the more people you punch in the face. Now, there's something in the Void 3.0 with the Titans called Offensive Bulwark. Now, this aspect means that you have an overshield when you're inside the Ward of Dawn, and grenades charge significantly faster, and you've got increased melee damage, and you'll also gain an additional shield throw for your Sentinel Shield Super. That is amazing. You could be stacking up a good couple of times and smashing things' faces in. A really cool one to keep an eye on. Well, both of them, actually. Synthoceps and Worm God Caress. So there we go. Some nice things for you to be thinking of getting before the Witch Queen drops. Have you got any ideas of what stuff might... Oh, God, I'm not going to say synergize again. I hate it. It makes me physically sick. I mean, work. Yes. What things will work nicely with Void 3.0? Let me know in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, give me a like if you enjoyed the vid, of course. If you didn't, then don't. And give me a subscribe as well to see if I plop more things onto the interwebs that tickle your fancy. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall speak to you all again very soon. Sausage out.